Alrighty, ladies and gents, the next thing we're going to be working on here is the 464 valve out of the 03 Mach 1. If you guys remember from watching those videos, this engine has about 60,000 miles on it, a little bit over that, I think. I think it was like 60,800 or something. But anyway, I'm thinking I'm going to be listing this one for sale. And, you know, I kind of have some plans that I have in my head for the Mach 1. But what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to list this one for sale, and my NOS 464 valve is for sale. And whichever one sells, I'll keep the other one, just in case plans don't work out, or you know, just to keep things cheap, because I already have it. I could throw the car all the way together with this and then swap it to what I want later on. So kind of what I'm thinking for the 03 Mach 1 is I would like to do, you know, a 5.4 or 5.8 liter GT500 engine in it, or I'm also considering doing the NA GT350 motor, the 5.2 liter Voodoo. I think that would be a really cool swap as well. I really love these 4.6 liter 4 valves, but I don't want to have multiple cars with the same engine. I think that's kind of boring, and you know, we're going to be resto modding that Mach 1 anyway, so it's not going to be 100% original anyway, especially after we install all the Kenny Brown parts and the IRS in the back and all that stuff. So I figure, you know what, I might as well make a unique car and do something a little bit different, either doing the GT500 engine or doing the GT350, which I really like the 350 idea because that's NA. It's really lightweight. There's no real, I mean, there's a couple issues with them. Like, you got to be careful of oil consumption issues, and some of them, I believe, had a timing issue. I think that's with the later ones. The Predator motors also had the same dealer TSB. So, but anyway, you got to be careful with that stuff. But if I did buy that, I would obviously do pretty much the same thing that I do to my 4 valves. Billet timing guides. I'd swap out the chains probably to something like AccuFab if AccuFab has something, or maybe even Cobra Engineering might have something. I'm not sure. And then obviously we'd be running a boundary oil pump in it and all that stuff. So, but that's kind of what I'm thinking for the Mach 1. Anyway, skipping over all that stuff and getting into this engine here, I want to kind of go over how I prep everything to get ready for pressure washing when I'm doing an engine like this. And yeah, let's go from there. So obviously we have the front timing cover, had that huge hole in it. We have a brand used one off of Facebook, and it's actually going to be the 3 tensioner design, or the 3-bolt tensioner instead of the single bolt. So it'll be a little bit stronger for the next guy as well. I like that cover anyway, more than the single bolts, just my personal preference. But anyway, I got it all taped up, and the plan is, I'm working nights right now, so I'm probably going to wait till tomorrow because it's going to end up pretty late by the time this block's ready to go. But I want to cap everything off, make sure everything's good to go, wash the block, and have everything torn down the same day, because as good as this tape job is on this front cover, there's more than likely going to be some sort of leakage into the actual block. So I want to make sure that I'm able to pull the pan and pull the front cover and valve covers, everything off, make sure there's no water on the inside of the engine after everything's clean. I also just hate working on dirty engines if I don't have to. You know, if we're going to go all out, we're going to go all out. You know, I'm not going to mess around. So we'll get everything clean, everything pulled apart, make sure there's no water in anything, and go from there. So everything is capped off up top here so far as I know. I'm going to do a double check, but breathers on both sides are capped. Electricals are double wrapped with gloves and zip tied. These ones could only do single because they're a little bit bigger connector, and I only threw a finger on them instead. I'm not going to worry about the ground straps because we can always clean those off and then hit them with some dielectric grease, so I'm not too worried about those. I see I missed a connector here. See, this is why we do the walk-arounds. These ones are capped off. I'm going to throw gloves on the exhaust manifolds to make sure we don't pressure wash back through the engine that way. I noticed that this, I'm not really sure what this is. I can't even remember, to be honest. But anyway, it's missing its bolts, so I'm hoping I have some in the other intake manifold from the turbo engine. But if not, we'll figure out the thread pitch and we'll go and get some bolts from Runnings or something. Maybe even order them from Ford, just so it's Ford hardware, but we'll see. We got this electrical double wrapped. Heater hoses are capped. Vacuum lines are capped off up here. I got double glove on the throttle body, and then I threw some tape around it just to make sure that the glove stays on there, and then zip tied it all together just to double check, you know, double, triple check, make sure that's good. Fuel lines capped off. And I also noticed that the alternator bracket stuff is missing its bolts too. I'm assuming that's because the shaker assembly bolts to the same location, but I'm not entirely sure. I've never had a Mach 1 before, so I don't know how it bolts up. So I'm going to have to look at some diagrams and see if that's why it's missing the bolts up here, and maybe we can just get some hardware to cap that off for now or something. I'm not really sure. So there's that for now. We're going to leave the radiator hose hookups open, so that way I can pressure wash through the block, make sure there's no gunk or debris in the actual block itself. And then we'll blow that out with air. And I might even shoot a can of WD-40 through it just to help prevent rust. And then the next owner will just have to make sure to do a flush before they run a complete, add all their coolant and all that stuff in there, because there's going to be the WD-40 in the system. So I just want to make sure that this block is as good a condition as it can be for the next owner. If you guys have watched my Mach 1 video, the Mach 1 was actually smashed on the passenger side here. And when Nate had to pull it out of the actual car, he had to cut that side and bend it out of his way in order to get it. Well, it damaged the AC lines anyway, so he cut the AC lines. So what I just did for now is I just took a hammer and I smashed them flat just to try and prevent any water from getting in there. So hopefully you guys don't have to replace the AC compressor. You can continue to use this after taking it to a shop, have them pull a vacuum on it, so it makes sure that if there is any water in the system, that it vapors off with the vacuum. And then you can go ahead and add all your refrigerant and stuff and try and get the AC compressor to work. Or you can just turn around and you can purchase another one for, I think they're $150, $200, and throw a new core in your car as well, and then you're good to go. So, but anyway, that's about all we got for now. So we got that one electrical connector that I missed. We're going to try and cap off these exhaust manifolds. If I can't get a glove to go around them, I'll build a plate, and I'll plate these with either plastic and some silicone, or maybe I'll make an aluminum plate, and then I'll just have that for later builds. This side would be a little bit more difficult because it's got the bevel, but we'll see what we can do here. And then let's see what else. I hope the starter is in the actual interior of the car. I guess I never even looked at that when I purchased it, because I was hoping to do a compression test on it too for you guys. I do have the video of it running, but it just makes it a lot easier to sell to another guy when you're not just like, well, this video was taken XYZ years ago. I know it wasn't, because I know Nate, and he shows in his video the damage in the car a little bit. So, but it just makes it easier to sell it when you actually have compression check videos. People are a little more confident that way. I can do bore scope stuff too and post that all up. So anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Sorry for rambling, but I'm going to get to finishing capping this off, probably go to sleep for today, and then tomorrow I'll get everything pressure washed and get the front torn off and the valve covers and the oil pan. And maybe at that point I'll pick the phone up and show you guys what we're kind of working with. And I'll probably have to wait for parts at that point, but I want to tear it apart and see exactly what I'm going to need. And then we'll wrap it up in plastic, probably store it off in the corner until the parts get here, and then we'll finish her up. So thanks very much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so we're ready to go, but I made the executive decision to pull the motor mounts off because I discovered that the passenger side is demolished. This is driver side, pretty tight, not too bad for stock mount, and this is passenger side. The rubber in there is torn off. So I made the executive decision that since we're going to be cleaning the block, let's pull those motor mounts off. I have a brand new set of energy suspension mounts that'll go on the turbo engine, and I pulled the U set off of the turbo engine that are in good shape. They do have a little bit of play in them, but they're way better than these ones. So I'll probably throw those used ones off the turbo engine onto this engine. And one other quick thing to note is I thought this was interesting. I might actually hit up Danny Johnson about this and see what he knows. I watched his video. The driver's side head was updated to the later style head, which you can see here by the DA casting number and the blue paint. But Ford usually did that off of a TSB, as far as I understand, for lifter tick and things of that nature. So that's why they updated it. It has better head cooling and that sort of deal on these updated DA and DB heads. But the interesting thing about it is they only did the driver's side. They didn't do the passenger side. Because if we go down here and we look at the passenger side, that's still the original AG, which is the same style heads that are on the 01 NOS Cobra that has never been touched before. It's brand new, straight from the factory, so it never got them updated heads. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that whenever a Mustang was taken in to get these later style 4-valve heads, that they did both sides. Well, they only did one side on this one, so I don't know if that was just a dealer thing where they didn't want to do the work to do the other side, or maybe they only did the one head because that was the only one that had a problem. I'm not really sure. So I might shoot Danny Johnson a message and just see what he says, and maybe I can give you guys some more information. So thanks for watching. Well, ladies and gents, we got her all washed up. I had to have my brother bring me a set of clothes. This new pressure washer puts out some pressure, I tell you what. I got soaked. So I think we got her pretty good. I even tried to get in here in the valley areas as best I could. So some of the paint ended up coming off a little bit. I made sure that when I went over the valve covers here, I held the wand way far back with as much pressure as it's putting off. I didn't want to lose the stickers here, you know, so it did wash some of the blue paint off of the actual head. I mean, even in here, you can see it's a lot less blue. So I try not to hit that too much because that wasn't as dirty. I see I missed a little bit in the corner here, but maybe I could hit that with the rag. And some of the paint was coming off on the block in here. So I might see if I can spruce her up with some of that engine enamel spray paint stuff. But I might not end up getting to it. So we'll see what ends up happening here. But that's all I got for you guys right now. I just got changed. I'm going to let her drip dry for a minute here. And then I'll go ahead and I'll hit her with compressed air and get it all blown off. And get it into the shop. And then I'll let it sit for a minute. And I'll wash the cement slab off, get the pressure washer put away, and we'll get to tearing this engine down. So I'll see you guys in a minute. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. So I just finished up taking everything off right now. It's getting a little late, so I'm probably going to call it a night here. But my parts just came in, so I want to go over everything that I got done here and show you the actual parts kit, which I really recommend that you guys get if you're going to be doing this on your 4-valve, you know, retiming it or anything. So anyway, without further ado, let's dive into everything here. So we got the valve covers, front timing cover, water pump pulley, harmonic balancer, throttle body we had to pull off for that side. Dipstick tube is loose for this side. So everything's ready to go. I started on the passenger side and then worked my way over to the driver's side. So everything on the table here goes from passenger side all the way over to driver's side and then down and then back over. So that's how everything came off. So to make it nice and easy, so when we go to install everything, you're just going to work in reverse order. Just boom, boom, up, over, done. So another quick thing that I did is I labeled every coil on what cylinder it came from, just so that way every coil goes back in its proper spot and it runs the same way that it did when it was taken apart. So another thing I did is, I know it's self-explanatory by the length of the harness, but I also marked the actual harness itself, just in case the lettering or the numbers were to wipe off of the actual coil or something maybe, or I don't know, something like that. And then another one is I also marked like the throttle body and crank sensor down here and that sort of deal. It's pretty self-explanatory that that's where it goes, but I figured I would mark it anyway just to make sure, you know, if something were to come up and the parts didn't show up today and it had to sit till Monday or something and I didn't remember how it went back together, I could just easily look at the markings and, oh yeah, that's where that goes, instead of having to search through my phone to find my photos of everything. So that's just a quick tip for you guys if you don't mind that kind of stuff. So that's where we're at with that. So let's dive into the actual parts kit, which I highly recommend you end up getting if you're retiming your 4-valve. Here's the quick guide to what it actually is. Let me see if I can get that light out of there. You can look at all the part numbers. And this claimed it was for an aluminum block, and this one has the iron block. So I hope that everything works, but this is the kit that I ended up purchasing. It's really nice because it comes with everything that you're going to need. You get your secondary chains, your primary chains, front cover gaskets with front main seal. It even comes with brand new hardware for your front timing cover, which is really nice, and your harmonic balancer bolt. Comes with new guides, your primary and secondary tensioners, all the miscellaneous hardware that you're going to need, whether you're installing the guides themselves, the tensioners, cam bolts for the actual gears and everything. So they gave you brand new gears for everything. So you got the primary gears on the cam, you got the secondary gears, you have the actual primary sprocket for the actual camshaft or crankshaft. You got your spacers, everything's in there. And then they also include a brand new trigger wheel for your crankshaft. So everything's included that you're going to need. So I don't see why you wouldn't get this kit. It was honestly pretty affordable. I think it was like $200 or something, and maybe even $3 or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know I was calculating it out, and off a modular head shop site, it was going to cost me, you know, easily double to do OEM stuff straight from their site, you know, buying one part at a time. And it was still like $50 more to get everything on Rock Auto. So I figure why go for something like, I can't think of what the brands were that they had. I think they had a milling kit and cleats or something, or I think it's CLOYES or something. I don't know how to properly say it, but anyway. So I figure why not just go with the OEM Ford kit and see if this one actually works, even though it said it's specifically for the aluminum blocks. I don't see it being any different. So anyway, that's that. The only things we have left on the block to do is I'm planning on pulling the oil pan and swapping out the oil pan gasket. I already have one for another build, so I'll just steal it off of there. We also have to clean the silicone off of the actual head surface itself up here. And that's basically it, and this one's ready to go. I also have to time it. That's one thing that I have to do. And luckily, since I'm quitting tonight, I can just take that installation manual up to the house and read everything in there, and hopefully it has the timing procedure in there. And if not, I'll look up a video on how to actually do it. I look everything up on every one of the engines that I do, just because I don't do enough of them that it doesn't stick in my head. So I have to always refresh my memory and make sure that I do everything properly. So I don't want to mess nothing up, especially on something like this. So anyway, that's where we're going to stop tonight. So I want to tell you guys I appreciate you for watching the videos. If you have any questions, shoot away. And also, one quick thing that I forgot is on the heads. I'm going to get some more info for you guys. I did read a little bit last night and watched Danny Johnson's video again, just to refresh my memory. But the reason why they replaced the driver's side head is because of the head cooling mod that most people have to buy. So the driver's side head is actually capped off here on the back and doesn't flow anywhere. So the coolant kind of just deadheads back here, and 7 and 8 get hot. Well, what that causes is the actual head expands a little bit and the guides end up becoming loose, and it causes a loud rattle in it. I always assumed that it was a lifter issue of some sort, but that's what it ended up actually being. So a lot of people do the head cooling mod, so that way it flows from one side of the head to the other and then into your heater core, and it actually circulates coolant out of the back here. So that's the main reason why the driver's side is replaced. Some of them had the TSB and they replaced the heads on both sides. Some of them were only on the driver's side. So, you know, this one looks like it was only driver's side because it's the DA. I believe it's DA. Yeah, that's the DA casting number. DA and DB, I believe, were the replacements, and DC was the one that came out on the 05 Lincoln Aviators after the Terminators were already done. So, alrighty, ladies and gents. So me and my brother just got back from town here not too long ago. I didn't have a trash bag that was big enough for the engine, so I just saran wrapped it last night. I got all the parts in the shop here for everything that I'm going to replace, so we can go through that real quick. This is the front cover that we're going to be replacing it with. Of course, I'm going to pressure wash it, so I got to pull the pulleys off and whatnot, and the sensors and everything, and make sure that it's all perfectly clean, install the new front main and all that stuff. So anyway, we're going to reuse this tensioner. It's in good shape, and the actual idler pulley, so that's all good. So I'll reuse that stuff. I had a couple of spare gaskets for the actual valve cover for the spark plug tubes, the actual ones for the bolts. I have a set of black ones, and I have a set of gray ones with an Allen wrench bolt dress-up kit from MMR. I wasn't too impressed with it on another engine. I didn't like the way that it looked, but we might turn around and actually use it on this one since the bolts are a little bit rusty on the valve cover, so it'll look a little bit better. We got a Dayco serpentine belt kit. I believe this is with the AC, so we'll see if this belt is actually for the 4-valve with the AC, or if this is for the AC delete, because I can't remember if this was for my race car or not. I do have race wrote on it, so it might be for the AC delete. So we'll see if it works or not. You got the Canton oil pan gasket, BBK throttle body gasket, so we'll be good there. I actually had this oil pump that I purchased on Facebook Marketplace. It's a brand new OEM Ford oil pump with the Boundary billet gears installed in it. We're going to be pulling that apart and installing this Boundary billet backing plate. And the advantage to having this is it's a much tighter tolerance than the factory backing plate, and it's a billet aluminum unit, so it's nice and strong. Guy doesn't have to worry about the actual backing plate flexing if you do turn a little bit more RPM, and you don't have to worry about the oil pump gear shattering with that billet oil pump gear. So really the only thing that I would do if it was going to stay my engine is I would have purchased from Boundary a billet primary timing gear, just to make sure that there's absolutely no issues. And ultimately, I would have did AccuFab secondary timing chain and tensioner kit on it, but that's another $1,000, and I didn't want to add that to the cost of the engine. It starts to get a little daunting when you start looking at all that. So if you're interested in doing that to the engine later on, you can be my guest, but it's going to have all brand new Ford OEM parts on it, so shouldn't have any problem turning the stock RPM limit. I mean, everything is designed by Ford. It's a Ford RPM limit, so there shouldn't be any issues with that. The only thing that I don't have is the valve cover gaskets for the actual circumference. I actually damaged a set. That's why I have all these extra parts. But we're going to try and reuse this ones because they are good quality rubbers. They're still nice and squishy. So we'll see if we can clean them up and reuse them. Hopefully they're not too stretched. If they're stretched, we'll have to go ahead and buy another set anyway, and just, it is what it is. But we'll see if we can get away with just reusing these ones. These are the energy suspension motor mounts that I was talking about. They got a little bit of corrosion on them, but overall they're a much better engine mount than the stock ones that were on there. They might add a little bit of noise and harshness / vibration or whatever you want to call it in your vehicle, but the much better unit, much stronger, will last a lot longer. So there's that. And then I'm not going to bore you guys with showing you all the timing procedure and everything on this. I watched a couple of YouTube videos, read through the manual here, and I'm pretty confident that I can get everything done here. There are a couple of tools that I would recommend that you purchase, but I don't personally have them. There's the cam holding tools to put on the actual camshafts that go right in the middle. I don't have this cut open yet, but it'll go right in the middle of your camshafts, and it'll actually sit on the valve cover surfaces and hold the cams in place so you can actually torque the cam bolts and whatnot. But that's not too big of a deal because there is, I believe it's 3/8 square in the actual back of the cam, so you could put a ratchet in there and hold the cams that way. So I'm not going to worry about going to town and purchasing that. We're going to get her done. So yeah, I'll post those 2 videos in the description for you. The first one is a very detailed breakdown from another gentleman whose channel I forget off the top of my head, but he did a very excellent job explaining which parts go on what spot and what orientation, you know, as far as like cam spacers and the timing gears and all that stuff, because obviously you guys know one set has to be farther forward than the other because you have 2 different sides, and that's how they space them out. So he did a very excellent job of explaining all that, but he's building his engine from scratch. So it doesn't really show you how to time the engine before you pull it all the way apart. So that's what the second video is for. So watch the second video to show you how to align the actual engine to TDC, where everything's supposed to be, and then pull it off from there. The other tool that I recommend that you purchase just to make sure that you're dead on is there's a tool that goes on the actual camshaft or crankshaft. And then when you're turning it over to top dead center, it'll line up with the actual dowel here for the timing guide here. So, or for the timing cover, this little nub right here, the tool will basically line up with a slot. And then that way, you know, for sure you're at top dead center. But you'll get the same effect by looking at the actual dot on the crankshaft gear. That's going to be facing straight down. Your secondary cam gears are going to be pointing straight up on both sides, and then this nub right here is going to be facing towards the crankshaft. So that's basically the summation of it. But if you want a visual representation, watch that second video so you can see how to pull it apart. And then the first video is a very detailed breakdown. So I'll post most of those videos, and I want to thank those channels for having those videos. You know, content like that is what really helps us, especially me, because I'm not a very good learner off of reading manuals and stuff. I prefer to watch and then do. So anyway, I'm going to get to it and probably cut to me after I finish the engine. I might cut after I get all the new parts on, but we'll see what ends up happening. I don't have a whole lot of space left on my phone. I still got to download some of these videos that I've been shooting on my laptop. So without further ado, let me get to the engine and I'll see you guys in a minute. Alrighty, ladies and gents, so here's proof of the oil pump. I just put the billet backing plate on and torqued the bolts here. The spec I found online was 90 inch-pounds. And I put 1 drop of red Loctite on every screw just to make sure that nothing comes apart. I saw that on Rad Dan's deal, and ever since I've seen that on his 2J projects where he spins a bunch of RPM, I've done that on every pump that I've built too. So just extra insurance. So if you start spinning crazy RPM, you're not going to get vibrations and the bolts are going to back out on you. So just that 1 little dab of red Loctite and you're good to go. And then just to show you guys here, you do got the billet gears in there from Boundary just to prove that it is billet gears. I'm not jerking your chain. And then the last thing I'm probably going to do is I might grab the new pickup tube that I have for the other build, just because there's 1 little metal flake in there and there's a couple pieces of silicone in there, and I probably could spray some brake clean in there and clean it out and get it all nice and good, but I'd much rather the peace of mind of it being a brand new pickup tube and then not have to worry about it. I do notice that there is a dent here on this pickup tube too, and there's a dent on the bottom of the oil pan, so I'll probably check clearance just to make sure everything's good. I'll probably bang that dent out of that oil pan after I wash it. So we'll get everything good and squared away for you guys. Here's the state of the motor right now. Everything's tore apart. I already cleaned the oil pan rail, so it's ready for the gasket. I'm about to install the oil pump, and then I'll grab the other pickup tube out of my trailer, get that installed, pressure wash the pan out and get that installed, and then flip the motor back on its, straight up and down and start working on the timing stuff again. So away we go. Alrighty, ladies and gents, so we got the new pickup tube installed. This is actually a larger version that Boundary sells for the GT500/3 valves. And it does have a little bit different of a bend here, so this is comparison. It is a much larger diameter size, but the bends are a little bit different, so we're going to see if it actually matches up with the original factory pan or not. So hopefully it does, but we'll go from there. And like I was saying, oil pump is completely installed and torqued in. I torqued it with the guides, so everything is done with the oil pump. Now it's just time to wash the pan and get to testing to make sure that that's going to fit properly with that brand new pickup tube. And hopefully it works, because then you guys get a larger pickup tube and a better pump. And then I might even utilize the head cooling mod off of the turbo engine and just order a new one for that one, just so you guys have everything ready to go for this one. You don't have to worry about nothing. But anyway, we're going to get that oil pan cleaned up, and then we're going to start cleaning up this front cover assembly here with the silicone and whatnot. And then, we'll work from there. So I'll see you guys in a minute. Well, ladies and gentlemen, some stuff and some things ended up happening here. And the pickup tube clearance with the stock oil pan was a no-go. I needed to cut like 1/4 of an inch off of the hex bolt. And instead of doing that, I sat here thinking, with these crappy looking bolts and shitty looking oil pan, why don't I just grab my Canton road race pan, even though it's like, I don't know, I think it's $600 or $800 unit, something like that. I figured, why not throw that on there with the brand new hardware so it looks nice, and I'll probably have to cut less as well. Unfortunately, I don't have any Play-Doh to check the clearance right now, so my lovely mother is making me some homemade Play-Doh right now. I tried looking for other alternatives, couldn't really think of anything. Maybe butter would work, or cream cheese, I'm not really sure, but that's really all I could think of off the top of my head. So she didn't want me to waste that stuff, so instead she's making me some Play-Doh. I also installed the Canton windage tray that I had here, and lucky for me, the pickup tube actually seems to work with it, even though their instructions claim that it doesn't. And this is the road race pan, so it's got the 4 baffles in there, so you won't have to worry about losing oil or anything like that when you're going through a corner or braking real hard. So I had this bolted all the way in there with the nuts on there just to kind of check. The one spot that it was a little bit close was right here on this bracket. So I bent the bracket in. There's plenty of clearance on the actual crankshaft. I wonder if I could get you guys in here. Let me pull you off the mount. So even with that pushed all the way in there, there's miles of clearance. I'll still have to check it, of course, by rotating it over, make sure that the rods don't get close, but I think we'll be good. So I'm going to wait for my mother to get done with that Play-Doh. I'm going to move on to doing the actual timing system, get the front cover on, get the valve covers back on, and then we'll go from there. So we'll see you guys in a minute. Alrighty, ladies and gents, do I have an update for you? So I got the driver's side all assembled and everything, and it took me a couple tries because I did a couple of things backwards that weren't proper. Like the secondaries, I had the gears actually flipped the wrong way, so the chain ended up binding up on top. So I pulled that all back apart, flipped it back around, got it all back together. Then I went to go put the passenger side together here, and I noticed that the round curved guide wasn't lining up properly once you put it on the timing pin. So I was like, what the heck? So I pulled it off and I started looking at the timing pin, and here the timing pin was actually bent as well. I thought that when I was pulling the old ones off that those guides were just bent, because I noticed it when I was pulling everything off. Here the pin was actually bent, so I went to try and go pull it out. Struggled for about 30 minutes to 40 minutes with vice grip, just going back and forth trying to get it out. No luck. It ended up actually breaking off. So then I was left with a conundrum of what do I do? I didn't know what to do. I did have enough where I could probably weld a nut on there and keep working it and try and get it out. But honestly, I decided that it wasn't worth it. So I pounded the pin back into the block and then proceeded to drill it out, because I actually I was comparing the one that they give you for the aluminum blocks, which is very small, and the pin, I believe, is M8, because it's almost the exact same size as the threads for these Cobra Engineering ones I got. So I decided, since I'm such an awesome guy and I have so many parts for everything, you know what? I might as well just use the timing pins for the Shelby Mach guides that I have for the turbo build. Kind of sucks because those are $600 guides, and I think these are $60 pins. But luckily, I already had the drill fixture for that one and these pins, which are M8 by 125 thread. which are almost exactly the same size as the pin. But then after using the drill fixture that Cobra Engineering gives you, I drilled it out. Basically, what it ends up doing is it just drills out the pin with just a little sliver of material left in there. So once you tap it, there's no longer any material in there because the pin just falls apart in there because it's a real thin wall after you drilled it out. So then I was left with another conundrum. The actual hole in the block for the iron blocks is bigger than this M8 thread that they give you. So you're not going to have any threads in the block once you tap it. So then I was like, well, I guess I could order pins and press new ones back in there. But after drilling it and tapping it and all that stuff, I don't know if there's going to be enough press fit to hold these pins in no longer. And I don't want to risk it falling out on another guy and blowing a guy's engine up. So I decided, you know what? Since I'm such a handy guy and I have so many parts, I have these thread inserts that I bought for another build because somebody messed some threads up in the turbo build. And these are easy lock, 1/2 inch by 13 thread inserts. So what I did is, as you can see, this leaves about 5 rounds of thread off the end. So I actually put 2 of them back to back here, just like this. And then I used my handy dandy drill and I drilled out that passenger side all the way, actually about 1/4 of an inch longer than what this was, because I don't have a bottom tap, which is basically a flat tap up and down. So I had to leave a little bit of margin for my tapered tap so I could get enough thread to screw it all the way in. Finally got her all the way done. And now we just got to do the driver's side here in the morning. It's way late. Still haven't eaten supper. I tell you what, this was an ordeal. So tomorrow, what we're going to have to do is I basically destroyed that vice grip, so I don't have nothing else to get that other pin out. So I'll do the same thing that I did to this side, cut it flat with the block, drill it out, and do the thread inserts on that side. I'm kind of a little worried about oil passages and that sort of deal on that side. So I think since I can't physically see what's behind that, I might look at some diagrams tonight of the actual block design and see if there's any passages behind it. But worst comes to worst, we'll just use one easy lock thread insert. It should be plenty strong enough, you know. So I wish that I could have full thread engagement on these pins on that side, but like I'm saying, I don't know what passages are behind there, and if I can't find nothing online tonight, then we'll just go with one thread insert and call it a day on that side. So anyway, that's all we got for now. So stay tuned for tomorrow. This engine's going to be pretty set up, so you know, I don't know if I'm honestly going to sell this one at this point. I might just leave the NOS one online and keep this one because we're already got the billet oil pump in there with the billet back plate, the larger pickup tube, Canton, windage tray, and oil pan is going to be on there. Now you're going to have Shelby Mike timing guides with Cobra Engineering 8mm pins. So honestly, at this point, I might just order another set of AccuFab secondaries, do the secondary chains, and do a coolant mod on the back of it and just call it a day. I might as well just keep it. You know, I got all the mods on it that I wanted to do to the other engine anyway, so might as well just leave the other one up for sale and go from there. So kind of sucks that this one's an iron block instead of the aluminum block because I wanted to save that extra 80 to 100 pounds of weight. But, you know, is what it is. So we might just turn around and throw this one in the silver V6 and call her a day. That's all I got for you guys tonight. I'll see you guys tomorrow when I'm back on the project here working again. We have a lot of metal shavings and stuff that we're going to have to clean out, so we'll probably pull everything back off of the engine. You know, oil pump, pull that back apart, make sure everything's clean. Clean the front of the block, clean the windage tray, clean the oil. Well, the oil pans should be good because it's not on there, but clean all the chains and everything just in case I got any stuff on it from blowing the threads out and everything. So thanks for watching very much. We might actually cut these into 2 parts, so thanks again, guys. Hit subscribe, hit the like if you like what you're seeing. So have a wonderful night. Alrighty, ladies and gents, so we've got everything cleaned up. Oil pumps installed, guides are installed, timing system's on. So I think we're ready to rotate her over. The cams aren't torqued. I just snugged them up real quick. I didn't want to actually torque them on and then there'd be an issue. So now it's time for the nerve-wracking part of rotating this sucker over and making sure nothing hits. And away we go. So what did I do with my ratchet now? This is why I always have to stop like in the middle of a job and clean up because I don't know what I do with the tools. Ah, here it is. So I'm probably going to do that here after I get this front cover on. Well, it seems to work. So we're gonna leave her there. Go ahead and torque the cams real quick, and away we go. So that's all I got for you guys for now. Seems like everything's working. Alrighty, so front cover is on and completely torqued. I got all the bolts paint marked that I did already. Oil pan clearance is set. I added 2 1/4-inch washers to it. Online it claims 0.375 down to 0.3125. We're sitting right at 0.33, so it's perfect. It's right in between those two. So we're going to pull all this stuff back off now, get all the studs screwed into the block with blue Loctite, and then we'll RTV silicone the block side, because that's always easier to clean than the actual oil pan, at least that style anyway, because of the way that it is. But so we'll RTV the block, oil pan gasket on top of the windage tray, and we should be good to go. Oh, I guess one thing that I didn't check real quick, I could throw 2 nuts on here. We should get a visual inspection here of the rods and make sure nothing's going to hit. We'll just grab 4 washers. So that's the last thing we have to check here, just to make sure that everything is hunky-dory. We're not going to have to worry about nothing. I'm hoping this stock dipstick will work, but it looks like it's getting into the windage tray here, so we might honestly have to use the Canton dipstick, and it's got a fitting in the side and the sump, so that'll be perfect there. Make sure that this is all the way down. Not going to be any issue. Let's see, I need a crank bolt back in there so we can rotate her over, because I don't have a tool for that. So what did I do with my impact? Don't need nothing crazy here. No, whatever. We'll use the big ratchet. Oh, miles of clearance. Okay, well, we're 100% good to go then, so I'm going to go ahead and get everything pulled off here. Get all the studs mounted, Loctited in with blue Loctite, so that way when you're pulling the actual nuts off, if you do pull the pan later, you don't have to worry about pulling the studs with it. And then RTV silicone the block, and oil pan gasket on top of the windage tray, oil pan on, and then we'll flip her back over, and I'll probably cover it up for now, go get some breakfast. It's already, probably 12 o'clock, and I still haven't eaten. And then we'll get the valve covers on, throttle body back on, coils in, harmonic balancer on, water pump back in, all that stuff. So, alrighty guys, see you in a minute. Alrighty, ladies and gents, so we'll try and make this fast because my phone's about to die, but we got everything pretty much 100%. There's a few things that aren't, well, I guess it's like 90%, but there's a few things that aren't done. Water pump pulley needs torqued. I have to go get a power steering pump out of my trailer. I have to figure out where a couple of these electricals route, like these ones on the right. There's one connector on the left. I'm not sure if that goes to the chassis. I believe these 2 connectors go to the chassis as well. This goes into the firewall. We need bolts for this. I see that there's a bolt missing here, so we'll have to get that. I'm pretty sure these are in the engine compartment, but we'll double check that. There's that one on the left that I was talking about. And then I also swapped the sensors out of the old cover because they must be slightly different. So the camshaft position sensor and the crank position sensor are both swapped from the other cover. And then that's pretty much where we're sitting for now. I also have this Ford engine cradle that I purchased a while ago for hauling stuff around. I'm going to go to town here when I get all this hardware, and I'm going to get wheels that bolt through these notches here. And then that way this actual cradle will be able to wheel around. We also need to get 3 bolts for the starter and get some sort of a flex plate bolted up to it and the transmission. So that way we'll be able to spin the motor over with the starter. And then, yeah, that's pretty much where we're sitting. My plan, I'm not sure if I said it on video yet. I told a couple of people, but my plan is to bring the Mach 1 into the shop here and just set it right in the middle of the shop. Run the wires over the fender, get everything hooked up to here. I might pull the fuel hat out of the actual tank, drop it in a bucket so the fuel pump will actually pump out of a bucket instead, and get this motor running just to make sure that everything is good to go. A guy doesn't have to worry about it, you know. I want to make sure that this thing actually runs after doing all the work to it. I know it ran before I worked on it, but I want to make sure that it ran after. So anyway, that's all I got for you guys. This is where it's going to sit for the next 3 days until I'm on my days off. So I'll see you guys here in a couple of days, and away we'll go.